Hey everyone, my name is Kristen and welcome to my YouTube channel. I am currently a new graduate nurse studying for my NCLEX board exam. I have a very fun video for y'all today. We are going to be talking all about interviewing as a new grad nurse. So we are going to cover what you should wear, how to prepare before the interview, and what you need to bring. I also do have a fun sponsor for today's video, and that is Ana Luisa Jewelry. And of course, I will have a discount code for y'all in the description box. So let's go ahead and get into today's video.
Let me tell you a story about a time we were kids.
Before we get any further in today's video, I wanted to go ahead and give a shout out to today's sponsor, and that is Ana Luisa. I'm super excited to talk about Ana Luisa with y'all today and even just partner with them for today's video. Now, I thought today's video would be perfect to talk about Ana Luisa Jewelry, and that is because when you go into an interview, you need to dress to impress. And that means the little fine touches such as jewelry and even your makeup are just as important, and I feel like Ana Luisa has the perfect jewelry when it comes to your interviews. So I'm excited to dive right in and show you the two pieces that Ana Luisa sent to me. Now, Ana Luisa is a sustainable jewelry line. They offset 100% of their carbon emissions, starting with the materials that they use to create the jewelry as well as what they use to dispose of it. I did get a pair of earrings and a necklace, so I am showing you the necklace first. This is the Vita necklace. Now, this is so beautiful and dainty, and I absolutely love the diamond details on here. This would be perfect for a job interview because you're at least able to personalize your style a little bit while still staying very professional. Now, I do want to let you know that all the jewelry at Ana Luisa does start at $39, so it is very fair pricing, and it does range a little bit higher, so there is something for everybody whenever you are shopping. I've been looking at Ana Luisa for such a long time, and I actually have friends who shop at Ana Luisa, and they talk about how high quality their jewelry is, so I'm so excited to give this brand a try. Now, these are the Paris earrings. They're just little swirl hoop earrings. I've actually been wanting a very small hoop earring like this for a little bit, and I did get huggy hoops. I got some with some crosses, some lightning bolts, and then a little triangle at the bottom. It's like a point earring. So I'm super excited to go ahead and mix and match this jewelry. I would honestly love to just wear this with maybe some gold diamond studs. And y'all know me, I did a lot of research into this company, and I've actually been looking at purchasing Ana Luisa stuff for such a long time, and I found out a lot about this company in general, and I absolutely stand by their mission and what they say. So one thing that I think is pretty neat about Ana Luisa is they do produce their jewelry in limited batches, so this means that there isn't excess waste. So you know how I talked about Ana Luisa being carbon neutral earlier? Well, really, the amount of carbon that they're putting into our atmosphere, they're making sure is counterbalanced with the same amount of oxygen. And me personally, in my opinion, I definitely think that this is such a great thing for our environment, just to make sure that we are starting to be a little bit more conscientious of our carbon footprints. Now, if you are interested in checking out Ana Luisa, I do actually have a discount code where you can get 10% off your future pieces in the description box. I'm so excited for y'all to check out this jewelry. It's honestly so perfect for just your everyday jewelry, as well as, even if you think about it, being a nurse, you can wear very minimal jewelry, just nothing like super crazy, and I think this jewelry would be perfect for your everyday nursing job, and like I said, for your job interviews as well. I think this jewelry is absolutely perfect. It will make a statement, and honestly, you'll be ready to go for your job interviews. Look at how beautiful that is. Y'all, I do have a list of things on my laptop about today's video and what I wanted to cover. We should probably just dive in and get started because this might be a little bit of a long video. I just want to let you know that this video is a continuation on my last video of what you should do before applying to jobs, so I will go ahead and link that video right here. When it comes to job interviewing, this is when you get the phone call and letting you know that you have been scheduled for an interview. Interviews can be different ways. You might have a phone screening, you could have one of those digital interviews where it's just on the computer. You could also be over Zoom, and of course, interviewing in person. Now, when it comes to interviewing, you really have to get yourself prepared. So what this really means is you should have some clinical experiences picked out, have looked up interview questions beforehand. You should have extra copies of your resume and cover letter and your school transcripts printed out. Think of some questions you want to ask the interviewers. And might stress a little bit when it comes to interviewing, but that's okay. Definitely have some stress techniques that work best for you. So when it comes to interviews in nursing school, you should write out your most impactful favorite memory, any time you may have seen an ethical issue arise, and basically any clinical experience that you think might be a very good example for your first nursing job interview. If you're keeping a diary or you're keeping notes or you're keeping tabs on your experiences, you can always go back and reference these later on before your next interview. So I highly recommend typing out, writing out, whatever you need to do, your clinical experiences, so you have some examples going back to whenever it is interview time. The next thing I want to talk about, I did look up interview questions that I could be asked in labor and delivery, NICU, PICU, a surgical step down, and then a medical floor. I wrote out in my bullet journal basically any question that I found that I could be asked, and I wrote down those clinical scenarios that I had written down before underneath each of those questions. So I sat and I studied and I practiced these questions over and over again. I had my mom ask me questions. I had my friends ask me questions. I wanted to make sure that I knew what I wanted to say, but I also wanted to make sure that it was authentic and genuine. So a little bit later in the video, I am going to go over those questions so you have a better idea. Now, before your interview, you have to research the hospital, know their goals, know their mission statement. And the reason that I say this is because if you can use some of this information when you're answering the questions, it makes the unit managers know that you're not only interested, but you've done your research. That helps you stand out in an interview. I did that for all of my interviews, and it was very helpful to be able to have some answers already prepared with the goal and mission statement. Now, the days before your interview, you also need to think about what you're gonna wear and what you are going to look like. Now, I highly recommend, just from word of mouth by different nurses I've spoken to wear business professional. You could do a business professional dress. You could also do a pantsuit. You could do a skirt and a blazer, or you can just do a nice pair of pants with a blazer, but you want to make sure that the colors are cohesive. So a lot of the times people tend to go to a solid set. So black, gray, brown, they tend to be darker, but you can also get away with like a cream color ivory as long as you try to make it more professional looking. Now, if the interviewer does tell you that you can wear scrubs, then wear scrubs, but you always want to make sure you dress to impress, and that is so important. Now, you also want to make sure that your makeup looks as natural as possible. You don't want to be experimenting with different colors at this point in time. You definitely want to save that for later. Make sure you are wearing nudes or basically anything that works with your skin tone that looks as natural as possible. Now, when it comes to the day of the interview, you want to make sure that you have extra resumes, cover letters, and transcripts with you. You don't know how many people are going to be interviewing you. I know from my experience, one of the hospitals was not able to download the resume that I had already linked on my profile. I definitely had to give multiple copies of my resume out, including the cover letter and the transcript, because this hospital wanted to see my transcript. It is very helpful if you have all of that in a folder or even a portfolio, just to make it look a little bit more professional. You want to make sure that you are early. I was at my interview at least 30 minutes early. I know they say 15 minutes, but in case anything happens, just make sure you arrive there early. You don't want to be that one person who is late. The next thing I have to say, of course, is try your best not to get anxious. Don't stress. I know it's much easier said than done. Definitely take a moment before the interview starts to take a deep breath, get yourself together, get your thoughts together, and try to answer the questions as best as you can. And you know what? If you don't know the answer, just ask them for a moment. Just say, hey, can you give me one moment to think about it? And the last thing I would do is, if you really don't know how to answer the question, just tell them, I don't know. Now, when it comes to what questions will they ask you in the interview, I should probably let you know that every interview is going to be a different feel, so it's definitely important to prepare. I probably had a solid 10 to 15 questions prepared prepared for each of the specialties that I applied to. I'm gonna go through all the questions I was asked, and I can wholeheartedly tell you that none of the questions that I honestly prepared for were the ones that I was asked. Know that that is possible, that you could be so prepared and they still ask you questions that you might not know you're being asked in the future. And that's okay. Just make sure that you try your best when that happens to just take a moment, think about it, let them know you need a second, and then answer whenever you are ready. I'm gonna give you some of the basic questions that I know I was asked in every single one of my interviews, and that includes my phone screening, that includes the online interview, as well as the in-person. And then I'm going to go into the exact questions I was asked for each of my interviews. One question that I got in all of my interviews is, why did I decide to go into nursing? Yes. The next question that they asked me is, why do I want to work at this hospital? That is definitely something to think about because every hospital that I applied to was so different. Another question that I was asked, tell me about yourself. So I had to give them like a 1 to 2 minute elevator speech about myself. So really, this is just hyping yourself up. There are probably so many YouTube videos out there that talk about how to do an elevator speech. Now I'm going to go into my labor and delivery interview. I prepared for this interview. Seeing some of those questions online, I was really scared because I didn't think I would be able to answer some of these clinical questions, but my interview actually ended up going very well. In this interview, I met with 2 unit managers, and the first question, like I said, was tell me about yourself. They asked me my favorite part of clinicals, and they tried to focus more on my OB clinicals. They asked me what did they look like, how much experience did I get. Then they also asked me about my NICU experience and my preceptorship. Then they asked me why my ethics degree and why do I feel like I'd be a good fit for that hospital. We talked about a couple clinical scenarios. One is how would I deal with a mom who just lost their baby. I did have an interview at a teaching hospital in both the NICU and the PICU. In the NICU, the first 2 questions, they told me that they were just fun questions, just an icebreaker to get the day going. And I had to pull questions out of a little cup. And one of the questions that I pulled is, why are manholes round? I was not expecting this in my interview, nor personally did I know why manholes were round. I mean, I knew that there was a logical reasoning behind it when it comes to construction. I truly believe these were higher level thinking questions. And the next question, because they thought the first question wasn't fair, they had me pull out a second one, and they asked me if a pizza delivery driver has a pair of scissors, what would they do with them? So I let them know if I was the pizza driver, I would use the scissors to cut the pizza. I was never actually told if that was the right or wrong answer, nor was I told what the right answer was. So, because I let them know that I had my preceptorship in the NICU, I was asked to tell them about the equipment that I used. I basically told them most of the oxygen equipment that I knew of because that's pretty much what I utilized whenever I was on that unit. Then they asked me what was my most favorite part of being on the unit. I was asked for the next question, how do I handle stress and what do I do if I'm falling behind? I was asked to choose one of the 3 values that the hospital holds specifically for that NICU unit, and how will I incorporate it as a new grad. And when it comes to the last question, they asked me, how will I ask for help when I need it if I don't know anyone? Because that unit is so large, there are going to be people that I don't know, so I do have to be comfortable enough to go up to all the different nurses who I've never met before to ask for help. The next interview that I had was the PICU. I was with the nurse manager and the nurse leader on that unit. They asked me why I picked the PICU, where else have I applied? So with this question, it is completely up to you however you want to answer that, because I do know as a new grad, they are going to assume that you are applying to other positions. Now, while I was answering that question, I got asked, well, what if you don't get the job? I'm not gonna lie, I asked the nurse manager, I was like, wait, excuse me? Because I did not process what the nurse manager had asked me. What if you don't get the job? I've never been asked that in an interview before, so that threw me for a loop. And I let the 2 interviewers know that if it's not in the cards for me or what God has planned, then I will go ahead, study for my NCLEX, and then I will start looking at other facilities and definitely just use that first job that I get as a great experience. That one definitely caught me off guard, and I probably looked so dumb in the interview because I was just like, what? So yeah, just be prepared. Some people might ask you some very funky questions. The next question is, what do I like to do for fun? I let them know that I do like to sing. That's not something that I've done on my channel, but I really do enjoy playing guitar and singing. And they asked me about my ethics degree, and then I just thought it was funny that they let me know that their ethics program was not very good. Then they asked me, where do I see myself in 5 years? So this question, you definitely want to let them know all of your future plans. They want to see that you have some sort of goals for yourself. Then in that point in time, I did ask them the questions that I had prepared at home before the interview. All right, and then the second half of my Pick You interview, when I thought I was done, I had to go talk to 3 of the nurses on the unit who I absolutely enjoyed talking to. I felt like I connected with them so well, and they asked me to tell me about myself and why I wanted to work in the Pick You. What does a typical day look like, or what do I believe a typical day looks like? Then they asked me what my stress relieving techniques are. Where do I see myself in 5 years? And then they asked me why I love leadership. And then I asked them questions that I prepared. Now I'm just gonna go through some of the questions that I prepared for the interview that I wanted to ask the nurse managers, leaders, and whoever else was in the interview with me. Any just professional questions that you have, make them understand that you are interested for the job. So other than asking about the teamwork feel, I asked about the turnover rate. I want to know if the employees are satisfied in that unit, or are they leaving for another job? Another question that I asked is, what will my experience look like, or what does this experience look like for new hires? I thought that was important because I wanted to know what to anticipate if I did get the job. Another question that I decided I wanted to ask going into the interview is why they wanted to be that nurse in that specialty. I just wanted them to know that I was interested in wanting to get to know their experience and what brought them into that specialty. The next question that I asked for myself, and that is, what qualities makes a person or tends to make a person more successful on that unit? And it was because I really wanted to know, what did I need to do for myself to make myself more successful on that unit? Now, the last question that I asked was more of a constructive criticism question, and this was mainly for me and what I felt like I needed to know about how I could make myself a better applicant, and that is, what qualities am I lacking as a new graduate nurse? And a lot of the nurse managers just told me the clinical experience. Unfortunately, coming out of the era I did, I don't have as much clinical experience as other nursing students do, and they know how we're struggling, and it seems like there are some units who are really taking into consideration what they are going to be doing for new grads, and I absolutely love hearing how the unit managers are definitely being flexible for us, and that definitely helps make us feel a little bit more supported during this time. Now, after the interview, you want to make sure that right before you leave, you ask for the unit manager's business card, or just make sure that you have their email on hand. The reason that you want to do this is because you want to say thank you. You want to send a thank you email letting them know that you're interested, or maybe you've changed your mind. Keep them in the loop and let them know, and just thank them for their time and that you enjoyed the interview regardless of how it went, and just take the time to do this. I promise sometimes these little things make or break the applicant, and if they are in between 2 people and you go out of your way to send a thank you, that looks very good on you. Now, you know I love to talk about self-care on my channel. After your interview, go out and just forget about it, celebrate, do whatever you need to get this interview off your mind, because you are going to be sitting there for days in agony waiting for an answer. Do something for yourself, because I promise you are going to need it. And sometimes you could be waiting up to 1 to 2 weeks, and so you need to make sure you're keeping your mind busy and you're not thinking about it 24/7. Well, that is all that I have for you in today's video. I hope you liked the video. Don't forget to check out Ana Luisa's website. Look at their jewelry, see what they have. I do have that discount code in the description box available for you where you get 10% off. Of course, I am here supporting you on your nursing journey, and I always just want to wish you good luck.